Good morning, good evening, and good day. You're listening to Dramabuds, an anime podcast. So hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Dramabuds. In the year of our Lord 2022, we have two ongoing dramas that are CEO romances. CEO romance with terminal illness, with fake dating, mistaken identity, amnesia even. Yes. And today I'm just going to talk about how do these two dramas use their tropes, what makes it work, what makes it not work, and just my first impressions on Crazy Love and Business Proposal.
I'm crazy. 터질 듯 달려 끝을 봐 속도에 취해 이미 난 머리가
First up, we have Crazy Love starring Kim Jae-wook and Krystal. So, background on, the show. This was the director of My Fellow Citizens and Jugglers, two dramas I have not watched. The writer, I think, is a rookie writer. And yeah, starring Kim Jae-wook, who I've watched in Her Private Life. Well, I haven't actually finished Her Private Life, but I've seen him and he's gorgeous. That's all I know. And Krystal, who I've seen in Prison Playbook and Police University, and the movie Sweet and Sour. So it's about No-Go Jin Kim Jae-wook. He's the CEO of Got Education. That's a tutoring company. And his mistreated personal assistant, Lee Shina, played by Krystal. So No-Go Jin is extremely narcissistic and he constantly receives death threats. And Lee Shina is just very overworked until she's diagnosed with a brain tumor and she decides to get revenge on him. So plot-wise, episode 1 of Crazy Love was very slow. There was a lot of redundant setup. Okay, we get it. No-Go Jin is smart. He's arrogant. He treats Lee Shina terribly. I mean, they spend a good 20-30 minutes on that. No, more than even. Just establishing that he's so good and his company is so highly regarded because he's such a genius math tutor over and over again, really. And how Lee Shina is just an outlier for surviving this long as his assistant. It's just very repetitive. The first, 10 minutes that they did it, I got it. I got the setup, but they just kept going. So it was just really slow for me. And only at the very end, when Shina was diagnosed with a brain tumor and then suddenly showed up in No-Go Jin's vacation home with a hammer, with dark red lipstick and crazy smoky eye makeup, only then did I kind of understand, okay, it's going to be crazy because she's going to kill him or get revenge on him somehow. That's not even the actual plot of the show. They weren't even setting that up. They were just setting up why it's crazy, quote unquote. The actual setup to the plot of the show was at the end of episode 2 when, No-Go Jin got into a car accident and woke up with amnesia, and then Ishina pretended to be his fiance, and all of that, the whole setup to that, and also them fighting, because she showed up at his home with a hammer looking like she's going to kill him. The whole fighting scene-ish. That took all of episode 2. And only in the end did we figure out okay, so that's where they're going with the show. And then episodes 3 and 4, they show how she pulls off the lie, all the Photoshop pictures of them together, and essentially building the story and then taking care of him, quote unquote, while kind of giving him all the things that he hates and torturing him, tormenting him with things that he doesn't really know he hates, but his body knows that he hates. Or just overloading him with onions, or those overbearing demands of his that he would ask of her when she was still his personal assistant. So at the end of episode 4 though, another major plot twist, they reveal that No-Go Jin is actually faking his amnesia to catch who ran over him. I mean, it's a good twist. I should have seen it coming, but I was almost tempted to continue this show. But you know what my verdict is.
Stay alive 이 순간은 영원할 수 없기에
I think my main problems with the show are the pacing and the tone. So first, the pacing. It's just incredibly slow. Like, I can feel that it is a 16 episode drama. Because if it weren't, I think this would move much, much faster. Like, there are a lot of things that aren't super necessary and we could have, picked up the pace a lot. But then they introduced so many moving parts, so many characters with their own agendas, and like people who are against Nogoji, and so many people who want to hurt him, and you keep wondering like, oh, who could it be that plotted to run him over with a car, and that's how he got his amnesia, quote unquote. There's so many people, so many antagonists, and none of them are particularly likable or even memorable. Okay, antagonists can be likable. Hey, antagonists can be likable if they're interesting, if they're well written. But not here. Like, they're all the same to me. They're all just scheming on their own. I think, based on the little attention I have paid, honestly, to their scenes. Because I can't remember all of them even. And sometimes it's interesting to have a show with so many antagonists and people you can't trust. But that really works for like political shows, right? Shows that are very serious. And that's not really what I signed up for in Crazy Love. That kind of leads me to my next major problem, which is the tone. The tone of the show, the colors they use even, they're too sad. They're too drab for a show that's called Crazy Love. Which I guess is my fault because I assumed that crazy would be, wackier, like wacky comedy, slapstick comedy. But it's not really leaning into that. It's more crazy because it's like sinister and dark and violent, deadly. And I respect that. That's cool. I do see the sinister side of the Crazy Love. And that's okay. I just feel like it spends too much time not being crazy, which makes the rest of the show feel more serious and heavy than I'd like. And this is a time in my K-drama watching life where I'm actually quite receptive to wackiness. I'm very receptive to comedy and light stuff right now. You'll hear about that later. So it's kind of a shame that Crazy Love isn't giving me that. And so although I am tempted to continue it just to see like, okay, where episodes 5 and 6 will take the story, I'm also like, I think it's okay to miss this one. I think I can miss this drama. So that's the verdict. I'm dropping it because there's just too much going on and I'm not a fan of the tone that the show has chosen. Which I respect it, but I'm just not a fan of it.
이건 누가 봐도 사랑일 텐데 종일 함께면 질릴 텐데 나 돌아서.
We now move on to the talk of the town. Everyone's been buzzing about it. Business Proposal, love of my life. This show, okay, you immediately can feel my energy, right? The energy has changed in the room. I am hopelessly in love with the show and you will hear about it. So, Business Proposal, the background of it. This is the director of Walk of Love. The writers, okay, they're known for the ugly Jung series, which is like, 17 seasons of a sitcom or something? And High Kick. So, yeah, sitcom writers. And it stars An Seop, who I saw in Dr. Romantic 2. I love him, my baby, my So Woojin. A bit in Lovers of the Red Sky. And also, I'm currently watching him in 30 but 17. And it also stars Kim Sejeong, who I've seen in The Uncanny Counter. So, it's about Shin-Hari, Kim Sejeong's character, who pretends to be her friend in a blind date and finds out that her date is Kang Tae-moo, the CEO of her company. Eventually, they enter a contract relationship where she pretends to be his girlfriend to appease his grandfather, but Harry still has to hide from Tae-moo at work. First impressions. Coming into the first episode, story time, it was a bad day. I found out my K-pop group, my ultimate K-pop group was going to disband and I was just having a terrible day. So I just came into it, no expectations. Actually, my expectations were low. They were very low. I came into it with sitcom expectations. Like, this is going to be bad. It's going to be cheesy and cliche. It might be funny, but it's probably going to be corny. And I might drop it in like 2 episodes. Well, the cheesiness, the clichéness, the comedy, yeah, it got those things right. But it was also kind of good. Like, I'm I've never been a fan of shows that really brand themselves as like comedies or romantic comedies. You know me. And Korean humor, it's not my sense of humor necessarily. But even in the obviously comedic moments where I was like cringing because it's so embarrassing, the secondhand embarrassment is real, but I was still laughing. Like I still liked the humor that the show was serving up. I think that was because immediately I felt endeared to Shinhari and Jin Young-so, played by Solina, and their bestie behavior. I think because I already liked the characters, I was willing to watch them in these ridiculous situations, being over dramatic and being ridiculous. Like, it's fine because I like them, which is surprising, right? To immediately develop fondness for characters as soon as you meet them. Aside from just the characters and their comedy, the show in general, it just served up a lot of like visual gags, a lot of bits, but I also felt like the story was setting itself up pretty quickly and pretty well. Like, we already had the first blind date. We had inklings of where the story was going to go. And in general, I am constantly amazed by how quickly the show's plot moves. From, Shinhari's false identity being revealed, like she's not actually Jin Young-so, and then to, like, entering the contract relationship, and then her real identity being discovered that, okay, Kang Tae-moo now knows that she's Shinhari, and then to Shinhari finding out that Kang Tae-moo knows about her being Shinhari. So, I mean, in the span of 5 episodes, we've done all of those. I'm just amazed and surprised because in other shows, I'm sure this would have taken like 7, 8, 9 episodes before the false identity was revealed. But he found out at the end of episode 4. That's amazing to me. The show only has 12 episodes, actually, and they only have 1 hour each. Like, they're very strict about that. But they are pacing it like they're on a mission, They're on a mission. They have a checklist of things they need to accomplish every episode, and they accomplish it so well. They are not wasting any time. Within every episode, the story keeps moving. And sure, okay, there are some scenes that aren't like directly related to the main plot or to their love lines, but somehow it ties back to it. Let me explain. In episode 5, Harry was drinking with her team. And that scene took a while. Like, honestly, although it was funny and I like the team, the characters, that was all that the scene was. Just them drinking and making jabs at each other. And it almost felt like it was dragging. But then immediately, that was followed up by Harry drunk calling Tae-moo and leading to her confessing the truth about her identity. Yeah, although they took a bit of a detour to get to that very important scene, the payoff was worth it because that was a very important scene. I think what makes me okay with quote-unquote wasting time on those scenes is that I actually like all the characters, even the supporting characters, even Harry's, her co-workers, her parents, Tae-moo's grandfather. I mean, they don't have a lot of supporting characters actually now that I list them down like that. But yeah, I like pretty much all of them. The writers crafted this universe where everyone is pretty likable, even if they're a little weird and they bicker a lot, and that can get old. Like, in general, it's a very wholesome, atmosphere, very supportive, and the relationships with each other are also very wholesome. The supporting characters don't even get a lot of screen time without the lead that they're related to or connected to. So I always feel like they're adding to the main story or to the world that the leads live in.
널 빙빙 돌아가지 않지 바로 하고 싶은 얘기 웃음이 my lady 이미 답이
Moving on to the leads, they took that seriously. They are leading the show. They're carrying the show. And the characters, they're such lovely people, honestly. That, like, I enjoy their journeys. I enjoy just seeing them, operate in this wholesome, supportive, ridiculous universe that they operate in. First, Shinhari, my sunshine, my ray of sunshine. What I love about Shinhari, even though she's always put in these ridiculous situations, and it's very easy to make her, like, quirky girl, that usual archetype that I don't like. I love how, like, Shinhari is a perfectly normal person. She's totally just a normal girl, loves her job, she's good at it, and she only becomes, like, ridiculous and clumsy. Clumsy, not stupid, okay? Just just placed under a lot of pressure, and she stumbles over herself a lot. Because she's dragged into this ridiculous situation by Jin Young-so. But in general, like, Haru's just a normal girl trying her best, to make money and to keep her job, and we love her. And Kim Sejeong's portrayal of her, Kim Sejeong as a real person is a ray of sunshine. She is that just bright and shining and beautiful. And she portrays Hari and her 1,000 expressions perfectly. She is over the top, just the right amount of it. She is bringing her musical theater acting experience to it because she is the right amount of dramatic. And just everything about Hari feels so authentic because of how similar she seems to Sejeong in real life. I don't know, it just bleeds into the performance. It's the perfect portrayal, perfect casting. It's like Shinhari was written for Sejeong. And now we move on to Kang Tae-moo, played by An Yo-seop. Kang Tae-moo is, he's both typical chaebol CEO male lead and also a huge improvement on the trope. He's objectively perfect in all the usual ways. He's smart, he's rich, he's athletic, he does everything. But he's not as arrogant and self-centered as he could be. I feel like he could be more. And Tae-moo starts out as a very dry character actually because he's getting into these ridiculous blind dates when he just wants to go to work. Honestly, the guy just wants to work. He's not here to go on blind dates and show off how rich and cool he is. He doesn't care. And then, he just goes along with it, you see layers to his character. You see him, being thoughtful to Gumhee on their dates. Gumhee is Shinhari's fake name on her other fake identity after Tae-moo discovers that she's not Young-so. Okay, so Gumhee, he's thoughtful to her on their dates, and then at work, he praises his employees. He remembers their contributions. He specifically remembered a proposal that Hari submitted that was really good, but it just wasn't approved for some reason. The fact that when he saw, her ID and saw her name, he just remembered immediately what she submitted. He doesn't have to care. He goes through hundreds or thousands of proposals, I'm sure, and papers and documents and whatever, but somehow he cares about those things and he remembers those things because he acknowledges hard work, he acknowledges good work. And more layers to Kang Tae-moo. When he realizes that he likes Hari, he doesn't spend, 3 episodes denying his feelings or, using their social status as an excuse. He doesn't even care about that. He immediately tries to confess to her. My poor Meow Meow. What a dum-dum. And, when his extravagant, over-the-top ways of confessing keep failing, he never is able to push through, he tries to get to know her, to appeal to what she actually wants instead of what he thinks he should do. Nowadays, the rich CEO male lead, it's an eye roll response immediately, right? Come on. In the year of our Lord 2022, we are still doing rich CEO male leads. Come on, guys. But, for me personally, if it's going to be Kang Tae-moo, I'll take it. He's great. He sells the fantasy. He makes the CEO male lead a fantasy, not a nightmare. Because being in a relationship with a egomaniac isn't really that much fun. But this guy, when he's that considerate, honestly, and he's got some flaws, but he sells the fantasy. Now, moving on to An Yo-seop, let me defend my man, Paul An. My man, An Yo-seop, who I think is doing a perfectly good job. No, he's doing a perfectly great job as Kang Tae-moo. Okay, sure. Let's acknowledge some of the criticisms on him. Personally, I don't think he sells the cocky, arrogant side of Kang Tae-moo as well. Yeah, I feel like my interpretation of Kang Tae-moo, not being as arrogant and self-centered as he could be, I feel like that's because An Yo-seop isn't portraying that aspect of his character, which canonically exists. He's not portraying it as well or as dramatically as possible. Alright? Because it's possible to be more over the top in that aspect. Okay, but really, I don't mind because I don't care about that aspect of his character. And I'm glad that even though he is taking that stereotype, he's not really emphasizing it or he's not able to emphasize it. It works for me. I don't care about that character trait. And then, regarding his comedic acting, okay, first of all, he couldn't really show off his comedic acting at the start. Where people were criticizing him for like, oh, he's the weak link. He's not as funny as the girls who really, they were killing it. But like, Kang Tae-moo was really cold at the start. Like, he wasn't given a lot of opportunities to be comedic the same way the girls were. So, of course, why would he be funny when he's not meant to be funny in his scenes or in that stage of like how well we know his character? But in episodes 5 to 6, like, he definitely showed off his comedic acting more. I think he's funny. And An Yusop has good expressions. I also think like it's a nice contrast knowing how like serious he was and cold at like the first few episodes. Seeing him be petty, seeing him be comedic was a lot funnier. Like, it's a great contrast. But you know what? I am 100% confident in saying that An Yosop is killing the romantic aspect of the show. He is doing so well as a romantic male lead. I don't like saying the word carry because that like implies that Sejeong isn't carrying her weight. But he's like killing the romantic aspect of the show while Sejeong is perfect in the comedic aspect. It's a great balance, okay? They are doing a great balance of the rom and the com. And An Yosop, he has V-look. You know, when the male lead looks at the female lead with those eyes as if they're like so in love. An Yosop has it. He does it, okay? And it kills me every time. Plus, aside from that, like Kang Tae-moo as a character, he's a lovely character. I love him, honestly. Not perfect, but I'm really into how he's been characterized. Plus the fact that he's like so head over heels for Shinhari already. Like, all of those things in combination, perfect, honestly. So yeah, that's my An Yosop defense squad rant because I love him and I think he's doing a wonderful job. Now, moving on to the second leads, honestly, I can't say much about them because they don't get as much characterization as the main leads. But like, yeah, they're lovely characters, lovely people. They complement the leads well, like Yongso to Hari and Songhoon to Tae-moo. The second lead's love line is developing like completely separate from the main love line, which I don't completely love. You know what I feel about, you know, things developing outside of the main leads. But like, honestly, yeah, I don't mind though in this situation. Like, it makes sense that they are living their own lives and developing their own stories. Yeah, I don't mind that. What I do love, though, is how their friendships with their main leads aren't being thrown aside just because they have their own story, their own love line as second leads with each other. Like, it's still extremely important to the show to show that they are friends. I also want to talk about the chemistry of the whole show of the cast. Before the romantic chemistry, cast chemistry. It's what makes this show so fun. Because they really seem to be having a lot of fun while filming it, and it comes through in the show. And then as characters, I never feel any bad blood between the two pairs of friends, even if they have, you know, different social statuses, and the rich ones can be a little bit overbearing at times. Like, okay, Yongso's, you know, blind dates, forcing or asking Hari to be her replacement. It's what dragged Hari into this mess and forced her to stay in it. And to others, that's like, oh my god, she's a terrible friend. This should be a deal breaker. She should stop being friends with Yongso. But like, you can see that they're truly so supportive and protective of each other in general, always. And so it shows that their friendship is stronger than this whole situation. Because that's how close they are. That's how much they love each other as friends. And then Songhoon, by the way, who's played by Kim Min-yoo. Songhoon is Taemu's personal assistant. You cannot get any closer than that, okay? He sees the best and the worst of Taemu, always. But they also have these boundaries when they're like boss and assistant versus when they're actually two friends who grew up together. Like, they balance their professional and their personal relationship really well. Essentially, what I'm saying is that these friendships are really solid and strong, and they're not adding any, you know, unnecessary conflict between these characters somehow. That's all I'm saying. Moving on to the romantic chemistry, though. Actually, I don't want to talk about the acting here. Because I think, in general, they're just doing a great job with their characters, and that includes all of their romantic moments together. I want to highlight the writing of their characters and the crazy situations that they get into. Because this show is so full of tropes, right? It's such a tropey show, and you'd think like, oh, it's so tropey. What's the point of it? Why would you say this is good writing in any way? Like, the romantic chemistry-wise. But at the core of it, though, behind all the tropes, I believe that their characters would actually be compatible with each other. I really believe that because both of them are passionate about food, about their work. They're thoughtful people. They remember things about each other when it matters. And they have like cute, candid conversations, and they apologize. They communicate when they should. And something that's like a green flag to me personally is that Taemu has never looked down on Hari or dismissed her completely as an option, as a romantic option, because she's not rich. Right? It's never occurred to him. Even when he found out that, she's not actually Jin Young-so and that her family just owned a chicken restaurant. They had to lie about her background to his grandfather just to sell the story. But like all their moments together when they were fake dating, all of that felt genuine, okay? So I think like if only he weren't super rich and also her CEO, they could fall for each other. This is totally possible. Even if, rich guy and poor girl is the central trope of the show, it's not like an overbearing obstacle with a lot of unnecessary conflict added to the story. At least so far.
네 모든 걸 알고 싶었죠 자꾸만 널 보게 돼 Creamy and fruity 너 때문에 oh yeah Oh smile again 내 모든 걸
So I have mentioned how tropey this show is and how unashamed it is actually of being a ridiculous rom-com. That's something I love about the show. It is so unashamed of what it is. It's not trying to be more than that. It's not trying to be profound and add meaning to every line and every action. It's not trying to be different from all the other shows that came before it. It doesn't try to delve into different people's lives aside from the leads, which, personally, my history with those kinds of, stories. Like, it's charming the first few times, but then every show does it and it extends the runtime to an hour and 20. It drives me nuts. I hate it. But Business Proposal, it's a focused experience. We're really pretty much 90% main leads or the second leads. It's focused and it's pleasant. It's very pleasant. It's uncomplicated. Every episode is like a checklist of tropes. But because the characters are so lovable, the actors are so fun to watch, it's still entertaining. I find myself laughing all the time, grinning, giggling, kicking my blankets off or something. I love it. And sometimes, they try to subvert the tropes. But most of the time, they just lean into it. And I appreciate that so much. Earlier, I said, so far, the show hasn't added any unnecessary conflict. And I'm really hoping they stick to that, They created these, lovely characters who aren't perfect, but they have a lot more green flags than red flags. And Business Proposal is showing that, K-dramas can survive without all the conflict and the scheming chaebol relatives and the constant misunderstandings and miscommunication. So many green flags between these two. Not perfect, but so much better than what I thought this would be. And another aspect that makes this show so fun and so easy to watch is, I think, the direction of the show and the production of the show, They really leaned into the webtoon elements at the start, and that's kind of toned down in the recent episodes, but it still maintains the fun vibe of the show. I think they just don't have the time to exert that much effort into editing. But hey, they're still putting in a lot of effort. That's something that amazes me. They put in so much effort into certain sequences. I remember there's this scene where it's the fake first meeting of Gumhee and Taemu in New York, where it's raining and it's black and white and it has this vintage noir filter on it. And when they bump into each other, the yellow of Hari's raincoat bleeds out into the world around them, and their worlds become colored and vibrant and beautiful because they've met each other. Something like that. Just imagine it visually. Or aside from that specific scene, they put in so much effort in like Harry's fantasies / nightmares about being discovered by Temu. All the, stark spotlights on the two of them and just over the top acting and her, getting pulled away with a wire or whatever. I don't know. It's just amazing how they put in so much effort in these wacky, crazy scenes at times. They lead into it, really, the wackiness. From sound effects to visual gags. Some are a little awkward. Some land a little awkwardly. Even the editing of it at times. But I can't help but appreciate how much effort they're putting into it. Instead of like, whatever, let's just shoot at a pretty place with some nice scenery and colors and use the same shots and angles over and over again. Like, no, they're really trying different things to keep it engaging and fun. Aside from the funny stuff, like the emotional scenes are great. There are some emotional scenes. The romantic scenes are amazing. For me, not a single skippable scene because they're not adding things that aren't mostly necessary to the story of the show. What else? The music. Oh, the music is so good. The OST is so good. I listen to it every day. All the songs are great. In general, the show is just the complete package to me right now. It's so much fun. It's not trying to be different. It set limits on itself even with just having 12 episodes. And like instead, of those things, it's just focusing on giving a fun and light experience and packaging all these tropes to make it entertaining instead of annoying. So obviously the verdict is that I'm finishing the show. I mean, happily, hopefully, I am living with hope in my heart that it will remain fun and uncomplicated until the end. I'm truly hoping because this has brought me so much joy. I cannot stop thinking about it. And it's like, oh my god, it's just a fake dating show. It's my stupid little fake dating show, but I can't stop thinking about it.
안녕 깜빡 눈 인사해 멈추지 않는 이 설렘 이유는 없어 안 돼 말로 설명이 왜 이럴까 나만 설레는지 그게 너무 궁금해 Anyway I'm sure
So yeah, that's it for me today. Business proposal is honestly like my only source of joy nowadays. It brings me so much joy. And I recommend it to a lot of people. And a part of me is like, what are they gonna think of me that I'm recommending a show, this light and dumb? But like, honestly, I love it and I recommend it to people. Not because it's like a god tier, perfect, perfectly written, impeccable directing, the pacing is everything. Like, it's not because it's objectively good. But I feel like it's giving me a K-drama experience that I have not experienced yet. It's kind of addressing all the things I have disliked about recent rom-coms and just the K-drama conventions of recent years. It's a 12-episode drama. It's strictly 1 hour. They are moving the plot along instead of dragging it to, 16 episodes. It's not trying to do so much. It's really just trying to be itself and do it well. It's just giving me everything I want, right? And that doesn't mean it's perfect. Of course, this is not, the profound writing, healing drama that others are looking for. But I don't care. I like it. And to those who, have tried it and they think like, why are people so into this? It's just a typical rom-com, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, if you're not charmed by it, just drop it. You're not missing anything. Like, there's nothing new to this show. And I'm sure those comparing it to other rom-coms, like, oh, this is just a 2016 rom-com, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, if you think you've watched it better, then just watch that instead. Like, it's really not trying to reinvent the wheel. And so you're just frustrating yourself by trying to stick to it and wanting it to be different when it doesn't want to be different. You can drop it. You're not missing anything. Go have fun and live a great life. We're gonna have fun here. But yeah, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, follow, and tell me what you thought about today's episode. See you soon!